Welcome to the Money Chisme podcast, a fun and safe space for personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship tips where we get the chisme on all things money with sass and humor. I am your host, Violeta, a first-generation Mexican immigrant, a real estate investor, entrepreneur, and I am here to help you kick ass in the financial game. Each week, I not only bring you expert tips, but also share the financial freedom and entrepreneurship journeys from our own community because representation is important. So grab un cafecito or si quieres an adult beverage and let's get into this week's Money Chisme. Hola, welcome to another episode of the Money Chisme podcast. I am Violeta, your host, and today I have Ruby Valencia, who is a brand strategist and website designer. And we want to just talk about navigating like entrepreneurship alongside motherhood, especially me, that I'm like a new mom and this is all new to me and having to navigate entrepreneurship. And Ruby has experience with that as well. So I think it's an important topic. And I really think it's something that we should talk about and kind of make it more normal, especially since most of us are starting our businesses and a lot of us are working at home. So we have to balance motherhood and entrepreneurship. Hola, Ruby. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about this and just kind of make it less taboo for women and men too to have kids and be able to be in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, awesome. Before we get into the topic, I kind of just like briefly introduced you, but I definitely want for you to introduce yourself, go more into detail of who you are, what you do, for those who may not be familiar with you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So I'm Ruby. I am a brand and website designer at Blue Moon Studio. I offer custom brand and website design. I work with women that are really ambitious and heart centered and being able to create a unique, strong brand for them and have them have a signature aesthetic as well. I'm also a mother of four and a breast cancer survivor and Latina. So I have all of these different identities I can relate to. And I'm excited to talk a lot more about my motherhood journey and entrepreneurship. I've been a designer officially for in business for 4 years now. And with that, I began with my now 4 year old. I began when he was a baby. So I kind of have some experience with trying to juggle motherhood and entrepreneurship. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I have a 5 month old and she's my first. I do have a stepson, but I don't kind of count that because he was like around 5 or 6. So it was already all past like the baby
Mhm.
stage and like all
Yeah.
the potty training and stuff like that. So that one was easy. When I had my daughter, it was really, I've been struggling. I'm not going to lie, these past 5 months, like trying to figure out how to balance creating and doing all the entrepreneurship tasks and stuff. So I kind of want to go a little bit back to you said you started 4 years ago with your first baby. And how was that a new mom and then starting your business? Like, how was that journey?
So, okay, so I have at the time 4 years ago, my daughter now 11 was
Mhm.
7. So,
Mhm.
he was this is I mean, I had a 7-year break. So it was kind of like starting
Oh, okay.
over. So I had the 7-year-old and then I was with my son who now is 4 and it was, of course, every baby is going to be different. And we were essentially starting all over after having had a 7-year break and starting now having a baby. It was basically starting like as if from scratch. And with him, I began my journey with my business kind of during my pregnancy with him, kind of tapping into what I wanted to do and what I wanted to grow on the side while working. And when I was like towards the last tail end of my pregnancy, we all went into kind of like, lockdown and COVID happened. And
Mhm.
so I started working from home and had more liberty to be able to work on my business. And then, of course, I had my maternity leave. He is a July baby. And so it was like
Mm.
really in the beginning of COVID, and everybody was being sent home, and then having to deal with navigating like healthcare with with COVID as a new mom. It was just like everybody else. It was a lot of chaos, but I decided so during my maternity leave, I decided to launch my website and launch myself as a official brand and website designer, taking on new clients as I had my little one. And
Mhm.
I mean, you're going through it. Through the first few months, it is hard. It's so hard because you're getting to know your baby's getting to know you, you're getting to understand their habits, their wake up times, the amount of feedings they need, how often, their sleep schedules. Like you're basically getting to know them. And so there was that struggle. And then at that time, I was still breastfeeding,
Mhm.
and I breastfed until about maybe 5 months or so. I
Mhm.
think it was like 5 months or 6 months is when I was like, "Okay, I'm done." But, oh my goodness, it was definitely a struggle to try to get to do everything and still try to promote my services online, work with I had a hand like a few clients and have my baby with me and then take my daughter to school.
Mhm.
As being a parent and also a wife and be all the things. So it was hard to figure that out, that journey out. Early on, I've always been like super into, I guess, like kind of the woo and journaling and all of that stuff. And
Mhm.
so that mindset kind of helped me and release the need to have everything perfect and release the conditioning of having to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 8 a.m.
Mhm.
to 5 p.m. And it was more of a when the baby sleeps, that is when I work. So my
Yeah.
schedule had to like kind of be all over the place. And I had to adjust to when there was those openings for me to have quiet time and sit down and be able to work versus wanting to be on at 9 and off at 5. That was
Yeah.
not going to be the case. Had a baby who was on from 9 to 5, you know what I mean? So it's like
Mhm.
I had to adjust and make the time in between nap times, in between when someone was helping me here, like dad was here to be able to help
Mhm.
me so I can get some work done. And of course, managing trying to get some sleep. So there was definitely a shift that I had to make, which was trying to have it in a structured ways and let go of that structure and just go with the flow of how life was happening. At the end of the day, we are creating a business to be
Mhm.
revolved around our family. At least for me, that was my goal is to create a sustainable business that revolves around my family's needs and not my family or me revolve around the business. And I had to really like kind of just shift gears into that perspective of like, okay, this is not going to be like a regular corporate job. This is going to have to be
Mhm.
differently. And so I tried to do that early on. And I think since then, I've kind of adopted a mindset of it's not about a balance, it's about harmony. Sometimes
Mhm.
I'm going to have more time with family and less time in the business. And sometimes it's going to be more time with the business and less time with family. And having that okay of it's not always going to be on eyes on one thing or the other or 50-50. It's more about letting myself go with how my life is as kids get sick and they're going to need attention a lot more than the business when they are sick. And so that's when that shifts. So it's not going to be 50-50. Can be
Yeah.
50 50% there, 50% with the business. It had to be more like 90% and maybe 10% in the business for those days. And then it shifts. Every day is different. And I think adopting that mindset of harmony versus balance is what has helped me be able to just allow myself to go with the flow of my life. And now that I have three little ones, I have the 4-year old, I have a 2-year old, and the 10-month old. It's
Mhm.
definitely that continuously telling myself, no, we're going to have a harmony and we're going to work when we can, when those windows are open, and not trying to control it in a certain way. And then
Yeah,
having support system is also helpful. Super,
yeah,
super helpful is having someone to be able to help when, even if it's on the weekends, I think it's so helpful. Or 5 minutes to yourself, or just that support system, surrounding yourself with a really solid support system, I think is also really important. And I know not many people have that, but even with your partner and leaning on him and you, and him leaning on you and having that support with each other, I think is
yeah.
so, so helpful. And so, like, I just kind of makes the difference.
Yeah,
So,
for sure, for sure. I definitely want to talk a little bit more about the support system, but before we move on, just because I don't want to forget, um, I will say that it was super humbling whenever I had my daughter, because I really thought that I could have like this schedule and everything. And with my husband, I was like, okay, you're gonna work during these times, and then I'll take her, and then you'll take her, and then I'll work, and whatever. And nothing humbled me more than when she actually got here. Because it was just like everything when it was on fire. Like, I was tired, like the times that supposedly said that I was going to work on a task, is like I was so exhausted. And
mhm.
then I was like, "Oh my god." So then I started falling behind, and then she'd have her little developmental leaps or something, and the
Sleep
purple cry.
regressions. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Regression.
we had a sleep regression a few weeks ago, and that
Oh,
was
it was the
so
worst.
hard. But it's definitely humbling, like, thinking that you're going to be able to
Oh, yeah.
schedule all these things with, "I'm gonna work on this," and
Mhm.
which we get about 12 weeks of parental leave, and so I really was thinking that I was like, "Oh, 12 weeks, I'm gonna get so much done and everything and work, and it'll be fine because the baby will sleep." Ugh, it was totally not that. And like, I had to figure it out. And I think I just, towards the middle, I just kind of like said, you know what? I'm just going to take a break. I'm just going to like slow down and just
Mhm.
like, just, worry about the baby and try to get her on a schedule and everything. It's slowly getting there. She turned 5 months this week. So slowly starting to get there. She still doesn't sleep through the night. She still wakes up like twice. But I'm glad you're talking about that, figuring out how to bring harmony versus a balance, because it definitely, I think it was that mindset of thinking that I would have a balance of like, okay, I'm gonna work at this time and then I'll take care of her during this time. But it was learning to just go with the flow and be, like you said, in harmony of based on the baby. And you're really on their schedule, and you have to figure it out around there. How you were starting to go into it of the support system, that is one thing I have learned that is going to help me now. I'm slowly building it. I still don't have like my mom and my parents, they're in Texas. So that was rough too. But I finally got somebody that I could just be like, here you go. Can you take her for a little bit because I'm stressed and I need to work on something. And my husband's working, even though he has a remote job,
Mhm.
it still, like, humbled him too, because he thought he could help out and be kind of like a stay-at-home
Yeah.
dad, but work from home too. And no, we've had to use our friend to babysit several times during the week. So definitely want to get into the support systems. What does your support system look like right now? And what's your, I guess, advice for people that are
Mhm.
trying to balance, well, harmonize
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur and a mom?
Yeah. So, okay. So it was very, now looks so much more different than what it looked when I had my son 4 years ago. I was, we essentially, so when I started my business, I was still like, I was on maternity leave. So I was still employed. And so I
Mhm,
was going to do this on the side. And I was going to try to figure it all out. Right. But we didn't have like a babysitter schedule. Like with my daughter, she was like my mother-in-law helped us so much because she was present and she was able to be our babysitter for her specifically.
mhm,
And it was so easy. We were like, she was just so much help. But when we had our son, she was ready to follow her husband wherever he went because he now was retired. And
mhm,
so I don't know, I guess I think something about being, at least me first gen, our parents want to go back to their homeland more often than usual, especially when they are retired. And that was my in-laws. They were like, we're gonna spend more time in Mexico than we are here. So we can't help with the babysitting. So with that is where we had to make a decision. How are we gonna do this? We're gonna be stressing, then I'm not gonna be able to get anything done with my business. Everything was just like kind of up in the air. And so we made the decision that we were able to me stay home and take care of the baby and not have to go back to work.
mhm.
So that was for me, I was like, "Yay, I get to be a stay-at-home mom." And I think it's like all dandy and all nice, like when you the thought of it, but it is definitely hard being a stay-at-home mom and the only human contact you have is a baby. And this is feed back to you throughout the day because my daughter was in school. It was during COVID, so she was, like, homeschooling, so I also had to deal with that too, now that I remember, and the 2 only human contact were the little my baby that doesn't talk, and then my daughter who is kid, what kind of conversation, so it was hard because I really didn't have like, my parents at the time were not retired, they were still working, and then his parents who for my mother-in-law would help us, she was no longer here and she was gone. And then he had to go back to work because now he is the sole breadwinner to bring in income. And me, I am trying to grow my business at this point. I have one or two clients and I'm not charging a lot and it is not sustainable. And so I had to figure, what I had to be able to do it all and, still try to grow my business. And so it wasn't easy. I will say that it was hard because at the time, like I said, there was that less support system throughout the week. On the weekends is when I was like, okay, we're grinding here because that is when my husband was present. And then my parents were able to help and my siblings as well. Cause my children are the only grandchildren on my mom's side and my dad on my side. And so they get all the attention. And so that was helpful is having them be there so that I could have a break on the weekends, even if it was then. It wasn't always easy. I made it a point to tell my clients, hey, I'm a mom. I have a 10-month-old or whatever the age was at whenever I would have calls. They're going to be in the background. If you're
Mhm,
okay with taking a call at this time, then okay, let's do it. But just know my baby might wake up from a nap. My baby may do this or that. And so I was blessed with amazing clients who understood that part that allowed me to be able to then work in my business, take calls, and still have my baby present
mhm,
and be able to try to juggle it throughout the week. But most of the time I spent in my business working was when that support system was there on the weekends. And I
yeah,
like I'm sure like just those breaks, even if it's one day of having some break, that is just means so much. You really do get re-energized by having
mhm,
that break. And that is what helped me. That was how my support system looked then when I started. It was just me. My partner does work long hours. He's like
mhm,
10 hours, 11-hour shifts.
Mhm.
So it was hard, like having to be the whole day just with the two kids and when during nap time, trying to do the work, trying to cook, wash, clean, do all the things. But I had to let go of that perfection so that I
Yeah.
wouldn't stress myself out and lean on my support when they were available to help. Because I know, and I struggled with it too because as a Latina, you see your mom, at least for me, I saw my mom doing everything, cook, clean, work, take care of us. Like my mom was a working mom too, and so she did it all. And we had my grandma who would be there present with us when she wasn't there and my parents were working, but it was like we saw them do everything and there was no leaning on here, let me leave you with your other grandparents so they can
Yeah.
babysit but me and your dad can go and do something and have a break from you guys. There's like no
Yes.
breaks for them. And so I felt guilty sometimes. There was that guilt of me having to be like, hey, can you guys help me so that I can have a little break and work on my business? It's like if there was a little bit of that resistance of leaning
Mhm.
into that support and I had to get, like, reminders constantly from my sister specifically who would just constantly was like, "Hey, lean on us. We're here to support
Yeah.
you. You have to lean on us and tell us, 'Hey, I need help. I need you to do this. I need you to that.'" And so as I had more kids, so after my 10-month-old then or sorry, my 4-year-old then, now
Mhm.
I had my, 3rd who is now 2, and that one was, like, also a big shift of, like, okay, now I have to readjust even more. Now I have 2 babies and my 10-year-old, and now I'm, like, trying to do all the things, now adding another baby on top of that. Again, it was leaning into that support system. At the time, my dad had finally retired, and he was the one helping me, like, sometimes
Mhm.
I would go to my mom's house, and he would watch my son, who at the time was 2, and he would just be outside playing with him, and then the baby would be sleeping, I could get some work done. And that's how I was able to handle and lean on that support system.
Yeah.
And then now with my 10-month-old, and so I have my 10-month-old, my 2-year-old, and the 4-year-old. My mom now is retired, and now I can lean on her to help me, or both of my parents, because they're both retired, to go over there and take a break. So I will once a week go and have a break so I can work on my business. And
Mhm.
then also, again, I'm still not back to like a 9 to 5 type of schedule. No, this is
Yeah.
still a schedule where it's like I have to go with the flow of my life. If I can work during the day, I'm going to do it. If I take calls, my clients know kids are might be in the background. If you're okay to hop on a call, then let's do it. If not, then we have to reschedule to a time that I'm going to be able to
Mhm.
have care for them. And 100%, like all of my clients have been like, okay, that's fine. I don't mind. Let the kids be wild and
Mhm.
free in the background because that's what they do. That's what they do. Like my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old. And it's just been like leaning into them. And so when I did start 4 years ago, it was
Mhm.
just me with a little bit of that support on the weekends. And then slowly it has now to my parents, both of them now retired, are able to like help me whenever I need it. And they're
Mhm.
there able to help. But it's
Yeah.
definitely something I think, at least for me, I had to really like let go of that resistance of wanting to ask and let go of that guilt of I can't ask for help. I need to try to do it on my own, just like my mom did it and
Yeah.
figure it out. And no, it has to be like, no, release that because that's no longer the case. Now you can lean on them for help. And they're
Yeah.
like wide open with it, asking for it. So yeah, that's the journey of how I've been able to lean on my support and how I've received support from my family. So yeah, that
Yeah.
support system currently looks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome that you have such a strong support system now. And
Mhm.
it's one of the reasons I'm gonna go back to Texas because my support system is there. I went and visited them this past week, and it was so awesome that I could just like my sister just took the baby at night, so I was able well, me and my husband were able to actually sleep through the night, and during the day, they take her at random times if I needed to just de-stress or just hang out or
Yeah.
whatever. So that was awesome, but I also like that you are normalizing like the motherhood aspect of having a business because so often you're like trying to hide the kids in the background and everything, but you're normalizing that, you know what, like I am a mom. And if you want to
Mhm.
work with me and setting those boundaries too and those expectations, I can't just put my kids somewhere. They're part
Mhm.
of me and you're able to still have calls. And I love that your clients are, because that was going to be my next question, but your clients are on board and
Yep.
supportive and understanding that you are a stay-at-home mom that is also has a business at home business. So your kids are going to be around there. You might hear them randomly or whatever.
Yeah.
um, and I think that is starting to change. I feel like I've started to see that a little bit more. It's starting to get more normalized, especially after more people do remote work and everything, like
Mhm.
after COVID. Cause I know like I've called like customer service sometimes and I'll hear the background, like the kids or the dogs. And it makes me happy that they're able to have the job. And it doesn't bother me one bit. If their dog's in the background, you could hear it or whatever, because I think it's starting to become, I hope it does continue to
Yeah.
become more normalized as more people push it, that it's okay that you don't have to have like complete silence. And
Yeah.
even with my husband, who is, and I was curious too, because on the mom side, we kind of like, is it expected a little bit? We take care of the kids and stuff. I was kind of curious with my husband once he started remote work because he was taking care of her several times for the week. But they seem to either he put the boundary up front and said, "Look, I'm gonna be working for y'all, but I'm stay-at-home dad, and we have this going on, so you might hear her in the background or something. Do my best. I'll mute myself, whatever." And so far, they haven't really. They joke that she's part of the company, going to the meetings sometimes. But he's also having, like, his breaks too, because even though they're so far supportive, he does need to have his little breaks of being able
Mhm.
to just, like, focus on his
Focus.
work. So, I think we have a good system right now of, like, maybe 2 to 3 times a week where, she goes to the babysitter, which is perfect because she lives right here in the same apartment complex that we are, so it's just, like, a
Mhm.
few steps away to just go drop her off and for her to pick her up, and it's so awesome. But I'm glad that we push more out there that you're saying with your clients. Yeah, so I do want to go a little bit into, you are a brand strategist and website designer. So how has that, I know we talked a little bit that you tell your clients, but how has that been being a mom and being a brand strategist and doing the website design? And I know you kind of like went a little bit into it, but just go a little bit more in detail of your whole process.
Yeah. So I do set that boundary, especially when I have clients that are like, hey, can I set or potential? Like when we start the process, I always have like a discovery call with my potential clients just to make sure we're good fit. And sometimes I'll request a time and I'm like, oh, if I can get a babysitter, or at least if I can ask my parents for help because they're my babysitters, then I'm able to go ahead and schedule it in that way. But if they're requesting a specific time and day that isn't like my parents are not available, I will like be straight up like, okay, hey, I'm a mom. I have little ones here at home. And just so you know, if you want to book this time and day, they will be in the background, or I'll
Mhm.
just be like, there'll be background noises, just so you know, and they might pop in because they always pop in.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they will pop in, and the boundaries are set like straight off the bat. If it's like that case, or even on the discovery call, we're getting to know each other a little bit more, and them knowing that I am a mother first, I think is so important. And for them to understand that it's not, there are going to be boundaries within the business where it's not going to be like, I'm going to be available 24/7 from 9 to 5 here in the business on my computer, take checking emails. I do have hours during the day that they can communicate with me, and I will let them know, "You can email me from here to here, and I will get back to you." In those hours, I'll get back to you either within an hour or so, but if they are past those hours, then they won't hear until the following day. So there's always
Mhm.
those expectations I set, especially because as a mom, I wanna make sure that they're aware that first comes my family and then
Mhm.
comes my business. And I do care about my clients and everything, but I also have to have boundaries, strict boundaries, so that I can make sure that I'm not overwhelmed. And they are aware too that there are other priorities as well in my life, and which
Mhm.
are my kids. But they're so understanding. And I don't think I've ever had one of my clients complain about the fact that the kids were in the background, because when they are in the background, I don't tend to lose focus on the task at matter, whatever the conversation is with my clients, whether it's a strategy call, whether it's a presentation, or whether it's like just kind of questions, open ended questions call that we have. I'm still like able to provide them with what they need on that call. And there's always like, I feel like I've structured my business in a way where they know where we're at in each step of the process. And
Mhm.
so, I'm always on top of that, so they know where we stand, and they don't feel like maybe I'm all over the place because I have the kids. No, there is structure, and I make sure to let them know for the beginning, and they see it from the onboarding to the offboarding process, all the structure that I have in place to make sure that the project is on time and runs smoothly for them and for me at the same time. So
Yeah.
and definitely every client knows I'm a mother first, and I make sure to make them aware of that. So there isn't any like misunderstandings or anything like that. And then when I do work, I work when my kids are napping. If so, like right now, my 2-year old and my 10-month old are the only ones that nap. And
Mhm.
my 4-year old is just kind of a ball of energy. And so he's the only one that is about. There are times when I'm able to work during the day with him around, and there's times when he wants all my undivided attention. And so then I go to that. But I try to schedule myself to make sure that the tasks that need to be completed within each project get completed when they are due. So if it's not during the day, then I am taking time later on once my husband gets home or the kids are sleeping to be able to work on whatever tasks it is need to be completed, so that then I can go ahead and provide them what they need for that next phase of our project. My phases for branding specifically, there's the
Mhm.
brand phase, there's the design phase, and then there's like the refinement and launch phase. And so each of those phases, there are certain things that are needed, and I make sure to have a timeline so that I'm not stressed and they're not also expecting something turn around in 1 day or 2, when it
Yeah.
takes a little bit longer. There's always, I think, how I've structured it has made it really, really clear, and they see it on their end as well. And so when I do work, it's when I have that time. And now I'm able to use that support system and be like,
Mhm.
"Hey, I have a ton of work. Can you take them for a few hours? I need to get some work done." And they're like so happy. And I can go ahead and drop them off and then just leave and come back to my office and just get work done and then pick them up later on in the afternoon. And it works out perfectly. So I'm so blessed with my support. I'm like, my parents have been so helpful, and I've been able to get things done in the day without having to be up at night working and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
how I've been able to manage through my projects. And the beauty of the work that I do is that I don't have to be on a client call to have to do that work. It is
Yeah.
something I need to be able to be alone and focus. And I don't know if it's because motherhood made me this way, but I'm a night owl. And so I really get so much things done at night with a minimal time. Like I don't need like a something that can take someone 3, 4 hours can take me
Mhm.
to 2 hours or even less. One thing I learned on really early is I'm also into human design and Yulita
Mm.
about this before.
Yes.
And I'm a projector. And as a projector, we're not meant to work long hours in like certain tasks and stuff like that because we can work effectively in a shorter amount of time. And that is 100% true because when I am sitting down and I'm given like I have to finish something or a task, I can really like just sit down, focus, and be able to finish it in a really short amount of time compared to given 6 hours, then it's
Mhm.
like I don't need those 6 hours. All I need is less time and I'll be able to get it done because I don't know, that's where my energy is and I'm able to go. And then when I need the rest, I listen to my
Mhm.
body and I rest. And that's one thing I have learned to do to be able to make sure that I'm not over like burning myself out. I know a lot of people talk
Mhm.
about burnout and taking on too many things. It's just like I've learned to set boundaries to make sure that I listen to my body. And when my body says rest, you best believe I'm resting or laying down. And as I watch my kids play, because of course, as parents, it's like when rest isn't really rest sometimes, but
Yeah.
like, I take my time to, like, just not be not be on my business all the time and taking those breaks that my body is telling me that it needs, and then when I come back, I'm just like, "Okay, we're getting it done, we're getting it done, we're getting it done," and yep, they always end up finishing on time and not getting delayed, and if there are delayed, it's always because of the project. There's add-ons or the clients back and forth, but it's not necessarily because I on my end is taking any longer. So that those are like ways I've been able to like juggle full mom and work
Yeah.
my business and working on projects too for my business because I think a lot of times we also talk about like the client work stuff, but not
Mhm.
necessarily like, okay, what am I doing to build? And the projects
Yes.
that are going to help me grow. And I like me keeping a task list is so
Mhm.
helpful. And I jot down, okay, I'm going to spend this amount of time on this task and this amount of time on that task. On these days, I'm going to work on this. On those days, I'm going to work on that. And I try to go with the moon cycles through the week to give me that
Ah,
energy that I
mhm.
need. I try to structure it in that way where when I'm writing, they're on Wednesdays. When I'm working in my business, it might be on a Sunday. When I'm working
Mhm.
client work, it's going to be like on a Tuesday or on a Thursday. And so it's like that kind of structure has helped me too, where to be able to maintain myself and not be burnt out in my
Yeah.
business and as a mom. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you include the human design because I think that's part of the journey of being an entrepreneur and building your business is I've had to learn so much about myself and how you work and how your flow is naturally because I guess doing the general 9 to 5 you're going off somebody
oh,
else's
yeah.
business flow, but when you're building your own business, you have the opportunity to actually listen to yourself, like
Mhm.
how you said, is that you're following the moon cycle. I didn't even realize that was a thing, and that would be actually another great topic going in human design and going with the moon cycles
Yeah.
for building your business and catering your business to yourself, which is what I love that you are doing with yours. 'Cause you're
Yeah.
really, like it sounds like you're really in tune with yourself and knowing
Mhm.
your boundaries and making sure that you're harmonizing with motherhood and setting up the business to fit your you, because that's what the point is of starting
Yep.
our business is so we can do the things that we want and be able to enjoy motherhood or other things that you want to in life. So I definitely love that. But you are a brand strategist and I do want to get some of your tips and your expertise on creating your brand. So what are some of your advice to an entrepreneur or someone that is looking to create a memorable brand?
So I think when you're creating a brand, I there's just so many elements, and a lot of people really take like a brand and think about it's being a visual thing, like your
Mhm,
logo, but that is part of your brand, but it definitely lies so much more beneath the surface. And I think when you're thinking about creating a memorable brand, the first thing you need to do is think about what are your values, what is your vision, and who are you really trying to have your brand? Who's your target audience that you want to reflect that brand to? And having a really clear idea of all of those things help is going to help you then create that memorable brand for that target audience. And I feel like I don't know what the quote is, but there's this quote, but basically it's like your brand is what people say about you when you walk outside, when you leave the
mhm,
door. It's like that's the memorable brand you want to create. It's like you want to have it to be a good, memorable brand that someone is going to really recognize and want to be kind of like a tribe to. And you can't have a brand without the audience, and having a clear understanding of who you are and who you want to be perceived as and who your target is, and seeing if they do perceive you as that, that's where the difficult part sometimes is. But when you bring in what I do, brand strategy, that is that bridge that's going to help you connect the two so that you can be able to create that memorable brand through who your business is, through those values. And that's going to be what's going to be reflective, and that's going to make the connection with those people. And that is what's going to create that memorable brand. I don't know. Was
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Yeah. I'm like, sometimes I feel like I talk so much about branding and I'm just like, maybe I just go off on tangent. But yeah. I
yeah,
feel like the one main thing I think just when you're starting off trying to create a memorable brand is like, first, who are you trying to create it for? And what do you want to stand for? What are your values? What is your long-term vision? What are your goals? And how do you want to be reflective as a business? You're a
mhm,
business, and but then you want to build a brand, and how do you want that brand to be represented out there? And if you are currently a business and you haven't really thought about that, think about how are you being already perceived by your target audience? Are they perceiving you in the way you want to be perceived? Or are there shifts that have to happen? And if so, then you have to start asking yourself, okay, where's the missing piece? Is it through my messaging? Is it through my visuals? Is it through my tone, my voice, brand voice? How am I really showing up? And how am I being consistent, or am I all over the place? And so I think those are super important questions to ask yourself if you've already been in business for a few years and you don't know if
mhm,
you are creating a memorable brand experience for your target audience. And so I
yeah,
think to create a brand, I think that's the goal, to be able to have a strong brand that's going to be memorable in the eyes of your target audience, just like
mhm,
Apple is, just like Starbucks is, just like when you go into a store looking for a bottle of wine, there is going to be one that's going to pop out the more. That's going to be like that brand visuals. And then when you go and taste it and you buy it, you taste it, and then you get a new experience. That's also part of the brand experience. And that creates that memorable brand for you to go back and be able to purchase that same thing, or purchase that same cup of coffee, whatever you decide. Do you like pizza, or do you like Starbucks, or do you like
yeah,
PCs, or do you like MacBooks or Apple products? Like there, it's all because you choose, there was something about it that was memorable, and that's why you kept coming back to it. And I think that same applies to our businesses on a smaller scale, of course, not like Apple or Starbucks, but it can get to it like that. You can create that memorable experience for your business. And if you're not doing it
mhm.
right now, those are some questions you can, begin to answer.
Awesome. So, since you are like a brand strategist and website designer as well, like how are some ways that if someone is interested in reaching out to you and working with you, how can they do that?
Okay. Yeah, of course. So I hang out on Instagram. So you can find me at Blue Moons with an S Studio, or you can visit me also on my website, bluemoonstudio.com. That's where you can find me and kind of get to experience my brand a little bit. is through those platforms. And also, I have like, if you are in a place where you're trying to create a memorable brand, I have a freebie that's like a brand strategy kind of questions that you can begin to ask yourself. And it guides you into creating kind of like the mood board vibe and aesthetic that you want to create for your brand, but it starts with those key questions of who your target audience is and your vision. How do you want people to really experience your brand? And so it has a variety of questions that I use with my clients on my brand strategy workshops. I had pulled some of the main questions and I created this freebie for folks that want to be able to begin to kind of have that, you know, that create that for their own business and create a brand. And so I think it would be a really great resource for people to get their hands on, especially if you are either one in the beginning stages or two already in business for a while and want to be able to create and start creating that memorable brand
Mhm.
for your business. Yeah. And
Awesome.
it
I
really
will have
you.
yeah, I will have all of that linked down below. And thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your journey and your tips and tricks for those that are in the motherhood space and trying to, build a business and a brand. Definitely inspires me. I know I
Yeah.
think I mentioned that last year when we met up because it definitely was inspiring. It definitely helped calm some of my I guess my fears. I'm still
Yeah.
learning a lot, but it's definitely something that was important that I wanted to talk about and normalize it some more
Mhm.
and remind us, like how we were talking about that we're trying to create this business for us.
Mhm.
And we had to keep that in mind. And I'm glad that you have not lost that because I felt like I was kind of losing that at the beginning. And then she came, and then I was like, oh, yeah, I gotta like work around her, but
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm happy to talk about that. I think it's so important for it to be less stigmatized of having a business, being a parent, and not being able to have both. I think it's so important to like for people to understand that yes, you can have both. No, it's not going to be the easiest thing on earth. There are going to be some challenges, but I think it's like worth overcoming to be able to do what you love and raise a family. And I'm now 4 kids in, and I still go back to looking at them and having them see me as this mom who's doing the dang thing. And
Mhm,
I want to show them that they can go after what they want to pursue in their own life when they are, whether it's that's entrepreneurship or they want to focus something within education. They're able to do that. And I wanted to show that for them. And it is possible to be able to do both, raise a family and, grow your business. So,
yeah,
yeah.
awesome. Well, that's it for this episode. I will see everyone in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and share this episode so others can also find this podcast. Don't forget to follow me on all my social medias listed in the show notes below, where you can also find resources to help you in your financial journey. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the podcast, you can find that information in the show notes. Other than that, thank you so much for your support, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.